This is the FX30. Today I'm going to be talking about the FX30 and why that is the best cheap cinema camera on the market right now. FX30 is from the Sony cinema line, where they first introduced the FX9 back in 2019, FX6 in 2020, FX3 in 2021 and FX30 last year, 2022. They all have similar looks, this grey cinema line look that Sony is using. So let's start with the sensor. It has an APS-C sensor or a crop sensor. Let's say you're using a 50mm lens, then it would approximately calculate to 75mm. So this can be hard in tight spaces. Let's say you're filming an interview and you have your main camera as a 35mm and you want your B camera to be a 50mm. And let's say you were using an FX30 as a B camera. Then you have to use a 35mm on the B camera as well, because it will then crop into around 50mm. Just good to have in mind that the look from this camera is a lot tighter than a full frame camera, for example. FX30 also has a fan inside, which prevents it from overheating, but it did overheat once when I was filming an interview. It was probably because I was shooting handheld with this camera and I was probably blocking the outlets for the fan, that's why it overheated. But as you can see right here, it's so bulky because of the fan. But when I use it on a tripod, it doesn't overheat, so we're good with that. One of the best things about this camera is that you can shoot in 10-bit 4K at 120 frames per second. This means you have a lot of room to color grade your footage in post-production. The S-Cinetone is also included in this camera, which is great for quick turnarounds. I personally prefer shooting in S-Log, but I heard that the S-Cinetone is great for those who don't have much time to color grade the footage. You can also preview LUTs on this camera, so let's say if you have an S-Log 3 LUT that you want to look at while you are shooting, you can preview those in the camera, which is a big plus for me. The full-size HDMI input is also great, because I really do hate those micro HDMI cables. They're like so fragile and can easily break. For those who are serious about audio, you can buy an additional handle that has XLR inputs. That makes it easier to get better audio quality, especially if you're filming interviews or documentaries. Talking about audio, the timecode is really nice on this camera. Let's say you are filming an interview with a bunch of cameras, like 3 or 4 cameras. You can all sync them together using a timecode, so that's really handy. Also, the FX30 fits on a gimbal, better than the FX6 for example. So for me, owning an FX6 would be really nice for most of the times, but if I would like to go on a gimbal, it would be really nice to own an FX30 to have like a smaller camera that can fit in tight spaces, fit on a gimbal and stuff like that. So if you're looking for a smaller camera but still this almost the same quality as the FX6, then the FX30 or FX3 is the one to go for. But the FX30 doesn't have a viewfinder, so if you're used to using a viewfinder with the Sony A7 series for example, then you won't have that viewfinder anymore. A lot of people don't like this. Personally, I don't mind it because I always just look at the monitor or a bigger monitor. But if you are used to using a viewfinder and you love it, then maybe this is not the best fit for you. Now, FX30 comes in at $1,800, which I think is really cheap for the amount of quality that you are getting. If I was looking for a camera, let's say a B camera for me, I would definitely go for the FX30 instead of the FX3, because the FX30 is like $1,800 and the FX3 is $3,900. $2,000 in difference just for a full frame. I would rather spend that $2,000 on an extra lens, for example. But if money weren't a problem, I would probably go for the FX3 just for that full frame look, or maybe spend the extra $2,000 for another FX6. So overall, I think the FX30 is the best cheap cinema camera on the market right now. It's packed with features for filmmakers like me and you, and the price is just unbeatable. So if you are on the market for a new camera, I would highly recommend the FX30. That's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.